The ancient archives of the Galactic Historical Institute stretched endlessly into the darkness, their crystalline data cores glowing with the accumulated knowledge of 1,000 civilizations. Vexra adjusted her atmospheric filters as she descended deeper into the restricted section, her six-fingered hands trailing along the cool metal of the guide rails. As the Institute's youngest specialist of military history, she had been granted access to files that few in the galaxy ever saw. But nothing had prepared her for what she found in Archive Block H597. The data crystal she held contained footage from humanity's last war. Not their final defeat, as most species believed, but their last participation in any galactic conflict. The crystal's surface pulsed with a soft blue light, its contents practically begging to be examined. Vexra knew she should log it first, follow proper procedures, but something about this discovery felt different. Important. She plugged the crystal into her personal reader, her bioluminescent spots flickering with anticipation. The holographic display crackled to life, showing a timestamp from over 300 cycles ago. The footage began playing, and Vexra's respiratory filters hitched. The scene showed a massive battle near Proxima Centauri, humanity's first extrasolar colony. But it wasn't the scale of the conflict that caught her attention. It was the tactics. The human ships moved in ways that defied conventional military doctrine. They operated in perfect synchronization. Yet each vessel seemed to act independently, adapting to threats in real time without central coordination. Pausing playback, Vexra whispered to her reader. She needed a moment to process what she'd seen. Everything she'd learned about human warfare suggested they were banned from military operations because they were too aggressive, too unpredictable. But this footage showed something else entirely. These weren't the actions of an unstable species. This was innovation beyond anything she'd ever studied. A soft chime echoed through the archives, indicating she had company. Vexra quickly secured the crystal and straightened her research robes. Through the dim lighting, she recognized the approaching figure, Archive Master Kelthin, his crystalline exoskeleton catching the light from nearby data cores. Specialist Vexra, he greeted her, his tone neutral but his sensor arrays focused intently on her workspace, finding anything interesting in the human military archives. Just routine research, Master Kelthin, she replied, trying to keep her bioluminescence steady, cross-referencing some dates for the Institute's chronology project. The Archive Master's primary eyes narrowed slightly. The human sections are restricted for good reason, Specialist. Their approach to warfare was problematic. The Galactic Council's decision to ban them from military operations was unanimous. Of course, Master. Vexra nodded respectfully. But as a historian, shouldn't we understand why? The official records are surprisingly vague about the specific incidents that led to the ban. Kelthin's crystalline fingers clicked together, a sign of discomfort among his species. Some knowledge is restricted to protect civilization itself. The humans weren't banned because they lost wars, Specialist. They were banned because of how they won them. He turned to leave but paused. I trust you'll focus your research on more appropriate subjects. The Institute has plenty of well-documented military histories that need attention. Vexra waited until his footsteps faded before releasing a held breath. She looked at the data crystal in her hand, its soft glow seeming more ominous now. The Archive Master's warning had only strengthened her determination. If humans were banned for winning rather than losing, what exactly had they done? What innovation in warfare could be so significant that the entire galaxy agreed to exclude them from military operations? She began cross-referencing the battle footage with other records from the same period. Most were heavily redacted, but patterns emerged. References to tactical metamorphosis, adaptive swarm theory, and something called the Silicon Revolution appeared in multiple documents. None provided details, but all seemed to point to a fundamental shift in warfare that occurred during the Proxima conflict. A document fragment caught her attention, a personal log from Admiral Zentith of the Galactic Defense Force. dated just after the human ban was implemented. The decision to exclude humanity from further military operations was not made out of fear or hatred, but necessity. They showed us something we weren't ready to see, that our entire understanding of warfare was fundamentally limited. The methods they developed at Proxima weren't just innovative. They changed the very nature of conflict itself. For the good of all species, including humanity, these methods must remain classified. Let the galaxy believe we feared their aggression. The truth would be far more destabilizing. Vexra's spots pulsed with excitement as she copied the log entry. This was just the beginning. The real story of humanity's ban wasn't about containing a dangerous species, it was about containing dangerous ideas. But what ideas could be so revolutionary that the entire galaxy would agree to suppress them? She needed more information, but the archive data could only tell her so much. She needed someone who understood how humans thought, how they approached problems. The Institute maintained a small staff of human consultants for cultural and historical research. Perhaps one of them could help her understand what she was seeing in these ancient battle records. As she prepared to leave the archive section, Vexra carefully secured the data crystal in her personal storage unit. She had started this research expecting to find evidence of human brutality or recklessness. Instead, she had discovered hints of something far more interesting, an innovation in warfare so significant that the galaxy's only response was to ban its creators from ever fighting again. The truth about humanity's relationship with war was hidden somewhere in these archives, and Vexra was determined to find it, no matter what she had to risk in the process. As she ascended from the restricted section, her mind raced with possibilities. The humans hadn't been banned from warfare because they were too dangerous in battle. They had been banned because they had changed the very nature of battle itself. Now she just had to figure out how. The Institute's cultural wing felt different from the archives. Brighter, more alive. Vexra made her way through the bustling corridors, her steps measured but her mind racing. She had spent 3 days analyzing the footage from Proxima, and each viewing left her with more questions than answers. Now she was about to meet someone who might help her understand what she'd seen. Dr. Sarah Chen's office door stood open, warm light spilling into the hallway. Vexra hesitated at the threshold, suddenly uncertain. Consulting with humans wasn't forbidden, but asking questions about their military history certainly pushed ethical boundaries. Before she could retreat, a voice called from inside. Either come in or move along, but please don't hover. It's distracting. The voice was warm, amused rather than annoyed. Vexra stepped inside, her spots shifting to a formal pattern of respect. Dr. Chen sat at a desk covered in both physical books and holographic displays, an unusual combination that spoke to humanity's fascinating blend of tradition and innovation. She looked up, dark eyes sharp with intelligence. "Ah, Specialist Vexra. I wondered when you'd find your way here." Vexra's spots flickered in surprise. "You were expecting me." Word travels fast in the Institute. When a promising young historian starts digging into restricted human military archives, people notice. Dr. Chen gestured to a chair. "Please, sit, and don't worry. I'm not here to stop you. I'm curious what you found." As Vexra settled into the chair, she studied the human before her. Dr. Chen appeared to be middle-aged by human standards, her black hair streaked with gray, laugh lines around her eyes suggesting a life well lived. Nothing about her seemed threatening, yet this was a member of a species so formidable that the galaxy had unanimously agreed to keep them away from warfare. "I found footage from the Proxima conflict," Vexra began, watching carefully for a reaction. "The official records say it was humanity's last battle before the ban, but they don't explain why. The footage I saw, it didn't show a species that needed to be contained. It showed innovation beyond anything in our military archives." Dr. Chen's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in her eyes. "And what do you think you saw specifically?" Vexra's spots pulsed with excitement as she finally voiced the thoughts that had been consuming her. The human ships moved like they were part of a single organism, but each one could act independently. They adapted to threats in real time, changing strategies faster than any command structure could coordinate. It was like a school of fish, Dr. Chen finished softly, or a flock of birds, each individual following simple rules but creating complex, adaptive behavior as a group. She stood and walked to her window, looking out at the Institute's sprawling campus. You know, humanity spent millennia studying nature before we ever reached the stars. While other species developed rigid military hierarchies, we were watching how ants built colonies and bees defended their hives. But that doesn't explain why the galaxy would ban humans from warfare. Vexra pressed. Many species have studied natural systems. The hive minds of Sector 7 based their entire civilization on insect behavior. Dr. Chen turned back, and now there was definitely something in her eyes. Pride, perhaps, or sadness. Maybe both. The difference, specialist, is that we didn't just copy nature. We improved upon it. Tell me, in the footage you saw, did you notice anything about the size of our ships? Vexra's mental filters cycled through her memories of the footage. They were smaller than standard combat vessels, much smaller, but there were more of them. Exactly. While the galaxy built bigger and bigger ships, we went the other way. Thousands of small autonomous vessels, each one capable of independent action, but all working together through distributed intelligence networks. No central command to disrupt, no hierarchy to break. Just pure adaptive strategy driven by advanced AI and human intuition working in perfect sync. The implications hit Vexra like a gravitational wave. You turned your entire fleet into a neural network. More than that, Dr. Chen said quietly. We turned it into an evolving organism. Each engagement made the system smarter, more adaptive. Traditional military doctrine became obsolete because we weren't fighting battles anymore. We were solving them like mathematical equations, finding optimal solutions in real time. Vexra's spots had shifted to the deep blue of profound realization. That's why the footage showed ships moving in ways that seemed to defy conventional tactics. They weren't following any strategy I could recognize because they were creating new strategies on the fly. Dr. Chen finished. Strategies that no organic mind could conceive in the heat of battle. We didn't just change how we fought wars, specialist. We changed what war itself could be. The human returned to her desk, pulling up a holographic display. But that's not why we were banned from warfare. What you saw in that footage was just the beginning. The first implementation of what we called the Distributed Combat Intelligence Network. What happened next? Well, that's what the galaxy decided no one should ever know. What did happen next? Vexra asked, her voice barely a whisper. Dr. Chen's smile held no humor. Keep digging through those archives, specialist. But be careful. Some knowledge changes more than just our understanding of history. It changes how we see the future itself. As Vexra left the office, her mind whirled with new questions. She had come seeking answers about human warfare, but she was beginning to understand that the real story was far more complex. It wasn't just about how humans fought. It was about how they thought, how they solved problems, and how they had transformed the very nature of conflict itself. The truth about the Proxima incident was still hidden somewhere in those archives. And now, more than ever, she needed to find it. Because if humans had achieved this level of military innovation before they were banned, what else might they have discovered? What possibilities have the galaxy decided were too dangerous to explore? The restricted archive felt different in the dead of night. Vexra moved silently through the darkened corridors, her bioluminescence dimmed to its lowest setting. What she was about to do went far beyond proper research protocols. She was about to hack into the Institute's most secure files. Dr. Chen's cryptic warnings had led her here, along with a string of coded references she found buried in personnel files from the Proxima era. The pieces were starting to fit together, but she needed proof. She needed to see the complete, uncensored records of humanity's last battle. The security terminal hummed softly As she connected the bypass module, she'd acquired through channels better left unmentioned. Lines of ancient code scrolled across her display as the device worked to penetrate the archive's defenses. Minutes stretched like hours until finally, the screen flashed green. She was in. The first uncensored file that appeared was a tactical analysis from the Proxima defense fleet, moments before the battle began. Vexra's respiratory filters constricted as she read the numbers. The human colony had faced an invasion force of unprecedented size. The Ravager swarm, a species that had since vanished from galactic records entirely. The Ravagers had arrived without warning or demands, overwhelming Proxima's outer defenses within hours. Their bioorganic ships numbered in the millions, each one controlled by a hostile hive mind that had already consumed dozens of worlds. By all conventional military analysis, the human colony was doomed. But then she found it. The full, unredacted combat logs from the human fleet commander, Admiral Sarah Martinez. They've adapted to every conventional tactic we've thrown at them. The Distributed Combat Intelligence Network is learning, but not fast enough. We're out of options, God help us, but we're implementing Protocol Omega. To whoever finds these records, remember that we tried everything else first. Vexra's spots pulsed rapidly as she dug deeper. Protocol Omega. There it was, buried in a heavily encrypted file. Her hands trembled as she began to read, finally understanding why the galaxy had chosen to hide this truth. The humans hadn't just created a neural network of ships. They had developed a way to link their own minds directly into the system, melding human consciousness with artificial intelligence at a scale never before attempted. Every human colonist on Proxima, every soldier, every civilian, they had all volunteered to join their minds in a desperate gambit to save their world. The footage she found next made her previous discoveries look like children's entertainment. The human fleet didn't just move as one organism. It began to evolve in real time. Ships split and reformed, adapted and changed. The boundaries between human intuition and machine logic dissolved completely, creating something entirely new. A hybrid consciousness that could conceive and execute military strategies with impossible speed and creativity. The Ravager swarm, for all its overwhelming numbers, couldn't adapt fast enough. It faced not just a military force, but an entirely new form of intelligence, one that could outthink and outmaneuver it at every turn. The battle wasn't even close. Within hours, the seemingly invincible Ravager threat was eliminated completely, their hive mind shattered by an intelligence that had surpassed their own. But the real revelation came in the aftermath reports. The human hybrid consciousness hadn't just won the battle. It had begun to expand, to evolve beyond its original purpose. In those brief hours of combat, it had developed new technologies, new theories of physics, new ways of thinking that even its creators barely understood. The emergency shutdown logs told the final chapter. The humans themselves had chosen to terminate the system, recognizing that they had created something that could fundamentally alter the balance of power in the galaxy. They had discovered a way to transcend the limitations of both organic and artificial intelligence, and in doing so, had glimpsed a future that terrified even them. Vexra found herself staring at the final transmission from Admiral Martinez, sent directly to the Galactic Council. We hereby request to be banned from all future military operations. What we created at Proxima cannot be controlled or contained, only prevented from happening again. We won today, but the cost of victory was nearly our humanity itself. The galaxy isn't ready for this level of advancement. Perhaps it never should be. The pieces finally fit together. The humans hadn't been banned from warfare. They had asked to be banned. They had glimpsed a future where war evolved beyond mere conflict into something far more profound and potentially devastating. The forced evolution of consciousness itself. A soft noise behind her made Vexra spin around, her spots flaring in alarm. Archive Master Kelthin stood in the doorway, his crystalline form catching the light from her displays. Now you understand, he said quietly, why some knowledge must be preserved but never shared. They could have dominated the galaxy, Vexra whispered. They found a way to transcend the very limits of intelligence itself, but they chose to lock it away. Because they understood something that few species ever learn, Kelthin replied. That victory at any cost isn't victory at all. The humans showed us that the ultimate evolution of warfare leads not to destruction, but to transformation, and that perhaps we aren't ready for such transformation. Vexra looked back at the classified files, her mind struggling to process the implications. What do we do with this knowledge? We guard it, Kelthin said. And we remember that the humans' greatest strength wasn't their ability to win wars, but their wisdom in knowing when not to fight them. They chose to step back from the precipice of ultimate power, and in doing so, they may have saved us all. Dawn was breaking over the Institute's towering spires as Vexra sat in Dr. Chen's office, her spots still pulsing with the aftermath of her discoveries. The human scientist listened quietly as Vexra recounted everything she had found in the restricted archives. The true story of Proxima, the merged consciousness, the voluntary ban. So now you know, Dr. Chen said finally, her voice carrying the weight of generations. How does it feel, understanding why we chose to step away from warfare? I'm still processing it, Vexra admitted. Your people created something revolutionary, a way to merge human consciousness with artificial intelligence. You could have dominated the galaxy. Instead, you chose to lock it away. Not just the technology, but your entire species' participation in warfare. Dr. Chen stood and walked to a shelf, pulling down an ancient Earth artifact, a glass cylinder containing what appeared to be a preserved butterfly. Do you know what this is, specialist? A preserved Earth insect, Vexra replied, puzzled by the sudden change in subject. This species was called Morphodidius. It evolved one of the most sophisticated camouflage systems in Earth's history. But what's fascinating isn't just how it evolved, it's how it used its advantages. She held the cylinder up to the light, where the butterfly's wings shimmered with impossible blues. It could have used its capabilities to become a predator, but instead, it used them purely for defense. Evolution gave it power, but its nature determined how to use that power. You're saying humanity made a similar choice, Vexra realized. What we created at Proxima wasn't just a weapon, it was an evolutionary leap. We found a way to transcend the boundaries between organic and artificial intelligence, to create a form of consciousness that could evolve and adapt at impossible speeds. But in doing so, we glimpsed something that terrified us. The records mentioned that the hybrid consciousness began developing new technologies, new theories of physics. It wasn't just developing them, Dr. Chen interrupted. It was rewriting the fundamental laws of reality as we understood them. In those few hours of combat, the merged consciousness made discoveries that our best scientists still haven't fully comprehended. It wasn't just winning a battle, it was transforming the very nature of existence to ensure victory. Vexra's spots shifted to a deep purple of concern. But isn't that what every species strives for? To advance, to evolve. There's a difference between natural evolution and forced transcendence, Dr. Chen replied. What we created at Proxima wasn't just a new form of warfare. It was a new form of existence, one that could have spread across the galaxy, transforming everything it touched. Not through violence, but through sheer evolutionary pressure. She set the butterfly back on its shelf. Imagine a galaxy where every conflict led to exponential advancement in technology and consciousness, where warfare became a catalyst for forced evolution. The arms race wouldn't be about weapons anymore. It would be about transcendence itself. Species would be forced to either merge with their machines or become obsolete. And that's why you asked to be banned from warfare, Vexra said softly. Not to protect the galaxy from your weapons, but to protect it from premature transcendence. We had opened a door that couldn't be closed, Dr. Chen confirmed. But we could choose not to step through it. The galaxy wasn't ready for that level of advancement. Perhaps it never will be. So we made a choice, to step back from the precipice and let evolution take its natural course. Vexra's academic mind raced with implications, but you didn't just ban the technology. You banned your entire species from warfare. Why such an extreme measure? Dr. Chen's smile held a hint of sadness. Because we understood something fundamental about human nature. Give us a problem, and we'll find a solution. Put us in danger, and we'll innovate our way out of it. We couldn't trust ourselves not to rediscover what we found at Proxima, not if we were pushed far enough. The only way to ensure it never happened again was to remove ourselves from the equation entirely. But you didn't stop innovating, Vexra observed. Humans are still known throughout the galaxy for their technological achievements. We redirected our innovation toward peaceful purposes: exploration, medicine, cultural exchange. We still push boundaries, but we do it gradually, naturally. We learned that some evolutionary steps shouldn't be rushed, no matter how capable you are of taking them. Outside the office window, the Institute's gardens were coming alive with the morning light. Alien flora from 1,000 worlds grew together in carefully maintained harmony. Vexra watched a group of students, multiple species studying together, sharing knowledge. The galaxy sees the ban as a punishment, she said. But it was really a gift, wasn't it? You chose to protect us all from premature advancement, even at the cost of your own potential military power. Protection isn't always about having the biggest guns, Dr. Chen replied. Sometimes it's about knowing when not to use them. The galaxy wasn't ready for what we discovered at Proxima. Maybe it never will be. But thanks to our choice, it has the chance to find its own path to whatever comes next. As the sun rose higher, casting long shadows through the office, Vexra understood that she had discovered something far more significant than a military secret. She had uncovered a lesson about the true nature of power, and the wisdom to know when not to use it. 3 months after her discoveries in the restricted archives, Vexra stood before the Institute's Board of Historical Review. Her spots pulsed with a calm determination as she faced the assembled scholars of a dozen species. Her research had led to this moment, a formal recommendation for how to handle the truth about humanity's military ban. Archive Master Kelthin sat among the board members, his crystalline form refracting the chamber's light. Dr. Chen was there too, seated quietly in the observers section. The human's presence was both a comfort and a reminder of the weight of what Vexra was about to propose. Honored members of the board, Vexra began, her voice steady. 3 months ago, I discovered the true reason behind humanity's exclusion from galactic warfare. Today, I come before you not to reveal this truth, but to recommend that we maintain its secrecy, with one crucial modification. A murmur ran through the assembled scholars. Kelthin's sensor arrays focused intently on her, while Dr. Chen's expression remained carefully neutral. The galaxy believes humans were banned from warfare because they were too dangerous, too unpredictable. This misconception has served its purpose, but it's time for a subtle shift in our historical narrative. Not to reveal the full truth, but to acknowledge a deeper one. Vexra activated the chamber's holographic display, showing footage from across the galaxy. Human scientists working alongside alien researchers, human diplomatic missions resolving conflicts before they could escalate into warfare, human innovations in medicine, exploration, and cultural exchange. What my research revealed wasn't just the story of why humans stepped away from warfare. It showed me what they stepped toward. In the 3 centuries since Proxima, humanity has become something far more valuable than a military power. They've become the galaxy's peacekeepers, not through force, but through innovation, diplomacy, and understanding. She gestured to a series of statistics floating in the holographic display. Since accepting their military ban, humans have been involved in resolving 89% of major galactic conflicts through diplomatic means. Their medical innovations have saved trillions of lives across thousands of species. Their cultural exchange programs have prevented countless wars before they could begin. What exactly are you proposing, Specialist Vexra? One of the board members asked. I propose we modify our historical records, not to reveal the truth about Proxima, but to acknowledge that humanity's ban from warfare wasn't a punishment, but a transformation. They chose to become something more than warriors. They chose to become guardians of peace. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. It was Archive Master Kelfin who finally spoke. You wish to maintain the secrecy of what really happened at Proxima, but change how we present humanity's role in the galaxy. Yes, Vexra confirmed. The truth about Proxima must remain hidden. Humanity was right about that. The galaxy isn't ready for that level of advancement. But we can acknowledge that humanity's greatest strength isn't their capacity for warfare, but their capacity for peace. She brought up a final series of images: human children playing with alien youngsters, mixed species families, collaborative scientific achievements that had pushed the boundaries of knowledge. Humanity didn't just step away from warfare. They stepped toward a future where warfare itself becomes unnecessary. They showed us that true power isn't about the ability to win conflicts. It's about the wisdom to prevent them. Their ban from warfare wasn't their end as a significant galactic power. It was their beginning as something far more important. Dr. Chen's expression had shifted to one of quiet pride as Vexra continued. The galaxy needs to understand that humans aren't banned from warfare because they're dangerous. They're banned from warfare because they chose to be more than warriors. They chose to be teachers, healers, diplomats, and innovators. They chose to show us a path to peace that doesn't rely on military might. The board chambers erupted in discussion, scholars debating the implications of her proposal. But Vexra wasn't finished. There's an ancient human saying, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." We shouldn't forget the lesson of Proxima, but the lesson isn't about the dangers of human warfare. It's about the courage to choose a different path when power is within your grasp. As the board deliberated, Vexra caught Dr. Chen's eye. The human gave her a slight nod, acknowledgement that she had understood not just the truth about humanity's past, but the vision for its future. Hours later, as the twin suns set over the Institute's spires, Vexra stood with Dr. Chen in the memorial garden. The board had accepted her proposal, agreeing to subtly shift the historical narrative while maintaining the necessary secrecy about Proxima. "You understood what few historians ever have," Dr. Chen said softly, "that the true legacy of power isn't in how you wield it, but in how you choose not to." Vexra watched as students of various species passed through the garden, sharing ideas, building friendships, shaping the future together. "Humanity didn't give up its power," she replied. "You just chose to use it differently. Instead of advancing through warfare, you helped the galaxy advance through peace. And that," Dr. Chen smiled, "is a victory worth more than any battle." Above them, the stars were beginning to appear, thousands of points of light representing worlds where humans and aliens worked together, learned together, grew together. The truth about Proxima would remain hidden in the archives, but its legacy lived on in every peaceful resolution, every shared discovery, every step toward a future where warfare itself would become obsolete. It was, Vexra realized, the greatest victory humanity had ever achieved, not through the power to wage war, but through the wisdom to wage peace.